Welcome back. We are live Club Dub podcast on our episode number 12 going on. What's happening, guys? How are we today? We are 11 days away. Preseason game number one. Hope you guys like that intro video. Bears social media team does a phenomenal job on those. Shout out to those guys. But how are we doing, guys?
Awesome.
Doing good. Lots of content to discuss. This is the best time of year.
Yeah, where should we begin? I'll let you kick us off here. We got a lot to talk about.
Well, as everybody knows, the main topic is always Justin Fields. What's he up to? Is he progressing? How's he looking? And all things considered, he's probably had two of his best practices the past couple of days for the Bears. First at Hallis Hall yesterday, and then again at Soldier Field today. I mean, he was sharp, threw a lot of really nice balls, didn't make a lot of mistakes, and it's just the sort of incremental development you're hoping to see from him. The aggressiveness, the accuracy, the mobility, it's all showing up right now, and he looks completely unfazed when it comes to making mistakes.
One thing I've noticed too is the media people are being very fair. They're letting us know who's throwing picks, who's had good practices, who hasn't. And other than those first couple practices, a few weeks ago, I've seen no Fields throws a pick here. Fields looks rattled. He's strong and he's ready for this. I mean, he's really playing well. There's a couple throws that we're going to show you guys. Sidearm throws, stepping up in the pocket on 3rd and long. Those long balls, I'm sure a lot of you have seen those on Twitter. He looks great, but it's still Andy Dalton week one.
It's still Andy Dalton week one, and I think that's one of the things that's being lost on us is that Fields over the last couple of practices has looked really good, and by all accounts has grown. And Matt Nagy's talked about how happy he is with his development. But Andy Dalton is doing just as well, if not better. And that's I think a lot of Bears fans are surprised by how well Andy Dalton's played. I think people expected Fields to blow him out of the water. It's Andy Dalton. He's boring. He's with the Bengals, whatever. He's played well, and he's made, a lot of deep throws that have been right in stride and good decisions. Yeah, he did have an ugly interception to Deion Bush a couple practices ago. But, he's looked every bit the part as well. And I think, the fact that Fields is progressing well, and keep in mind, he's only playing with the twos, but still, some of that keeping up mentally as part of the game was important for him.
The thing is, he's making the twos look really good. Have you even heard of Jesse James before this? And I'm not talking about the outlaw. All I see is Jesse James lighting up my Twitter timeline.
Yeah.
Who's this guy? He's the 3rd-string tight end, and he's out here catching balls over the middle, making diving catches. Fields out here making the second team look like a Pro Bowl team right now in practice, which is great to see.
Well, Jesse James is actually a pretty decent player. He was a decent player in Pittsburgh, and then he made a couple of really nice grabs in Detroit. He's always been one of those guys who's trapped behind higher drafted guys. So he really hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities to show what he can do. But if you watch him, he can catch the football, good hands, and he's a really stout blocker. So the Bears getting him this late in free agency was actually kind of a steal when you think about it, and he's showing why, making plays right away with Justin Fields throwing him the football.
Yeah, and here's one of these throws that we were referencing earlier. If you see Fields right here, I mean, you called it. You called it, Eric. I mean, look at him step right here, just like a Mahomes-esque, no panic, right over the middle, gain of about 45, 50 yards. I mean, that's just, you can't draw it up any better than that. I mean, that's exactly what you want on 3rd down. I believe it was like 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9. It's just a great play. Here, if you guys just tune in, we'll watch it one more time.
This is mental makeup that we haven't seen in several years.
Decades.
I mean, he just waits for a couple linebackers to drop in, and boom. I mean, that's great. Gain of 50 yards. We love to see that. And the thing I really love, we were talking about the second team. I just love the fact that he's making, guys like Javon Wims, he's giving them long balls. Jesse James,
Riley Ridley.
Some of the, what's that? Riley Ridley, Marquise Goodwin, a lot of these guys that are kind of going to fly in under the radar when you have guys like Darnell Mooney and Jimmy Graham and Allen Robinson and David Montgomery, who are going to get the majority of the touches on this offense, but and Cole Kmet too. But the fact that he's making do with all of these guys and making them look great it's a really good sign. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Again, it is still Andy Dalton's team. We heard that from Matt Nagy. But the Fields hype is definitely growing around the national media. I don't know if you guys watched Dan Orlovsky earlier today, or it was yesterday or today. It's a video that went viral. He breaking down a couple plays from Fields. being really smart about his, how he goes about changing plays and reading safeties and using that in drives to start the game. I really found this interesting. It's a longer clip, so I want to play it for you guys. Normally, I don't agree with Dan Orlovsky and everything, but he played quarterback in the NFL, so he knows more than me. So here's what he had to say on Justin Fields.
When I played under Steve Mariucci as a quarterback, he would tell us, you don't stop gathering information just because the play is over. You can continue to get clues, or he would call them breadcrumbs, even between plays. And I think Justin Fields did that against Clemson in the college football playoff. It's a perfect example of his intelligence. Now, I want everyone to pay attention to what Clemson is going to be doing defensively. This safety is going to be the clue for everything. And Justin's going to go, I got my eyes on you for you to tell me to find some breadcrumbs. Now, the play concept defensively for Clemson is that safety's really responsibility is this half of the field, okay? Like, that's his responsibility depending on the pass concept. Chris Olave at the bottom of the screen is going to have a post route, but the real concept for offense is going to be he's going to have a wide and hitch, a seam route, and then a crosser. It's full progression, 1, 2, 3 to 4. That post for Justin Fields is like a pre-snap alert, or if somebody on the defense tells you something. Now, Justin's going to drop back and go, okay, I'm understanding that that's our pass concept. Now, I want you to pay attention to that safety, everyone. That safety right now, Justin's peeking out there. I don't like number 1, that guy's getting wide. Number 2's not getting there, but watch that safety. Watch that safety. Where is he supposed to be? Deep. Is he getting to as deep as he's supposed to? Because Justin snaps back and he's like, that safety's not there. That post, I really want to throw that post. That safety is not where he's supposed to be. I got Olave deep. That safety collapsed on my crossing routes. But I can't get that ball to him. Even though that safety's there, I can't get that ball to them because this pass rush is not allowing me to push that ball down the field, okay? Pay attention. Remember where I told you that safety was. I got to throw that ball away. But something here told me Justin's finding breadcrumbs. His eyes. This is right now. He's staring at that safety like, you're not supposed to be where you're supposed to be. I know the play's over, but I'm going to make sure that I hurt you. I'm not going to allow you to do that again. Now, here's going to be that same safety. He's just in a different spot. He's not down here. He's up top. That same guy. It's the same player. He's also got the same kind of defense. That's his responsibility. You got to cover that side of the field. Now, this is 6 plays later. In the same drive, Justin didn't go to the sideline. He didn't have talk with his coach. He did this himself in the same drive 6 plays later. Now, the pass concept is going to be very similar. Number 1 is on an out route. That is number 1. He just happens to have Olave on a post again versus that same safety from the previous play. Now, Justin's going to drop back. Now, I know Ryan Day tells him, hey, if number 1 is open, throw it to him. 1 is open. He's wide open. Throw it to him. Unless somebody on the defense tells you can get that post. Justin's going to go, nope, I don't want number 1 because I know that guy, last time we ran this play, was where he's not supposed to be. And I'm going to make him pay for it. You don't allow that guy to not be in that part of the field again when you got that post. He snaps his head back and he's going to drive that post, and that safety's going to get penalized for not being where he's supposed to be. Now, everyone's saying, well,
and there you go. And there you go. And this is exactly what we've been waiting for so long, is a quarterback that doesn't need to go to the sidelines, doesn't need to throw, doesn't need to check down on 3rd down, is willing to take that deep ball shot. We've seen it in practice. We have videos that we're going to show you of this. This is just great recognition. And it's great.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you get one. You get one. Everybody gets one. And I'm kicking you out.
Sounds good. What I was going to say was, this is what separates excellent quarterbacks from replacement level quarterbacks. Now, Fields has to prove that he can do it consistently, but that's exactly it. Look, my first progression is that out route. Very, very simple, shallow, but he's open, go for it. But he saw something in the defense. He saw something 6 plays earlier. Keeping that in the back of your mind, recognizing that, and being able to take advantage, that, if he can do that consistently, that's what makes elite quarterbacks. And that's really cool to see.
And that also reminds you about Justin Fields' mentality. He's not only intelligent, we've already established this over the past couple of months. He's a very smart guy, but also the fact of how mentally aggressive he is. Yes, I can easily take the check down, probably get 5 or 6 yards and move on to the next play. But no, I want to go for the big play if I know it's probably got a good chance to be there. It was obviously there. It was the absolute death blow for Clemson in that game. And, that's just the mentality he has. As Nagy put it, the rip your heart out mentality. If I can get it, I'm going to go get it.
So in that case, we have to remind people again, why is he not starting week 1?
Because he doesn't have to. I mean, if you really think about it, why rush him when you've got somebody who's competent and capable like Andy Dalton? The more time you can buy Justin Fields to learn this offense, get more comfortable with the NFL speed, you should take it. I mean, yeah, you want to see him play. Everybody wants to see him play. But at the same time, there's a lot of factors here. He's still not experienced. He'll get his experience eventually, but you also have to take in the fact that the offensive line is becoming an issue already. Yeah. And it's not even halfway through training camp. You take that into account. So you want to protect Justin Fields as best as you can, both mentally and especially physically. So that's what the Bears are thinking right now. They want to see him play just as much as everyone else, but they have to be smart about this.
Keep in mind, we still haven't seen live bullets, right? We're still, even though pads came on today, there's still no hitting. Can't really go near the quarterback. Fields is not at risk of getting hit. Now,
unless you're in Giants camp, then you can go near the quarterback.
Unless you're in Giants.
Then you can tackle Daniel Jones and leave him at the bottom of the pile fighting out like Jon Snow in the Battle of the Bastards. Yeah.
No, I'll tell you what, listening to Joe Judge describe that, man, that guy's got a handful of problems.
Yeah, did you hear them? They're, we're just, we're tired of losing games. The guys are just fired up. Yeah, you're the only team to have a full-on bench brawl in training camp. I haven't heard of that in quite a while. I mean, it's training camp, dude. Relax.
What was the last time we
the Giants
about a training camp brawl? It reminds me of Mark Trestman, Martellus Bennett, Kyle Fuller.
Kyle Fuller, right?
That's right. Wow, I forgot all about that.
That's what happens on undisciplined teams. Those are the coaches that get canned. Watch Joe Judge. What I was going to say, though,
Calvin Benjamin.
Yeah, it's a good point. We just had an example earlier this year. That's a good point.
Yeah, you're right.
But back to what I was saying, we haven't seen those live bullets. So how is Fields going to do against a defense that's actually looking to hit him? A decent defense with depth like Miami that's coming up here in about 10 days. How's he going to look then? If he starts to show that, he's still playing well, avoiding rush, making decisions quickly, making good throws, then you can have a legitimate argument as to, hey, Fields is looking ready, maybe. But until then, Dalton's been there, done that. He knows exactly how to play. He has been a decent quarterback his entire career. You still don't have a reason to put Fields in. He still hasn't proven he's ready to be QB1 as yet.
And Justin also said, this was really important. This is a sign of great maturity. When he got hit in that Clemson game last year, they called it targeting, kicked the guy out of the game. He said that hit still haunts him. It still is one of those that he's going to be weary of because guess what? That hit in the NFL might knock you out for the season because it's a guy that's bigger and stronger. So the fact that he already knows now how to take those hits, the longevity and the willingness, if Dalton does get, sacked by Aaron Donald and he's done, being able to be smart and being able to put him in those situations is going to be very important. Whereas a lot of rookie quarterbacks, we saw it in Lamar Jackson a lot. He just kind of went for it and ran, which is fine, if you think you can do that. But I prefer my quarterbacks to really be smart about it. Seems like Fields doing that. That being said, here's Andy Dalton's thoughts on QB1. This is what Matt Nagy was talking about him earlier today. Basically says we could play a game tomorrow, and I'd be confident that we'd be good to go.
Do you feel confident that he'd be good to go right now? If they called you and moved up your first game to tomorrow, would you feel like
100%? 100%. He's got full control of this offense, without a doubt. I mean, we could play a game tomorrow and be just fine.
So then his project for the rest of this next month and a half would be what?
His own players and teammates, the timing of with these wide receivers, the tight ends. Checks at the line of scrimmage, different things he wants to do, see what he sees with the defense, really getting used to seeing the pace. And it's one thing in OTAs to get your timing on air. It's another when you got people around your feet, and you got to move and do different things. And then kind of also learn from a coaching standpoint, what are we looking for and how does he match that up with what we're trying to get to. But we could certainly go out tomorrow.
There you have it. You got your starting quarterback week 1. I mean, he basically just said that. And you know what? I'm good with it. I've been good with it. I've come to terms with it. We all need to come to terms with it. Andy Dalton will start week 1. He will be just fine. He's going against the top 3 defense in the league. I don't want Fields out there against Aaron Donald. Period.
I've been looking for my tea sipping moment. Is this it? Is this it?
Your what moment?
You want to take it? Might as well take it now.
I didn't catch that. You want what now? You want me to praise you or something? You want me to?
Yeah, kinda.
Right?
Kinda.
Yeah, we don't do that here.
we don't praise Drew here.
We don't do that here. We don't praise guessing.
Why feed the ego?
Fair point. Yeah, fair point. I would be insufferable at that point if I was ever right.
But no, Drew was right. I was wrong. Yes, honey, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yes, dear.
Right. I mean, he was right. You can't lie. Drew did say that Andy Dalton would start week 1. I was kind of like, I don't know.
I said it was the right choice. The right choice. Anyway, no.
We'll have to roll the tape back. But anyway, Nagy is confident in Dalton. I think we are too. It's the way it needs to go. I've fallen. But here's what I'm really ticked off about right now.
Yeah.
Nick Foles wants his cake and he wants to eat it too. He doesn't have a place on this team anymore. He was dog crap last year and the year before that. I'm not saying he's not a good person. I'm not taking away from, I'm sure he has a great voice in that locker room, but he wants to play. He's a Super Bowl champion who says he's at the level that he was and even higher than when he won a Super Bowl in Philadelphia a few years ago. So if you want to play, you have to be open to trades. And right now, Foles is saying he doesn't have a no-trade clause in his contract, but he's saying he only wants to go to offenses he knows. Frank Reich has an offense he knows. He called Frank Reich the best coach he's ever played for. The Colts don't seem like they're going to trade for a quarterback, which is stupid. I mean, they have a team ready to win now. Why would you? You're going to trust? Who's their backup? Isn't it the kid from Green Bay?
Right now,
Brett Hundley. Yeah,
Brett Hundley. Yeah.
Is Brett Hundley the backup or is it?
Jacob Eason's taking first team reps. And
okay, so it's Eason and then Hundley. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're telling me you want those guys over Foles?
And Sam
I
don't
think so. Yeah, I mean, come on. You got to be. They have a defense that's built to win now. They have an offensive line that's built to win now. Yes, we saw what's his face go out with the same injury. Yeah, Quentin Nelson's going to miss the same timeline, 5 to 12 weeks. That's a lot of time. Yeah. You're throwing away an entire season in that timeline. Why would you not go for a guy that you already have on your team? I think Foles would take a trade there. Do you guys think so? I think he would.
Why not? 100% he would. Why wouldn't you? I mean, it's Frank Reich. You just said he's one of your favorite coaches ever. You'd be playing behind a pretty good offensive line, even though it's banged up right now. You'd have some decent receivers around you, a defense you can lean on. It's indoors. I mean, you couldn't really ask for much of a better situation. Plus, it's a smaller market in Indianapolis compared to Philadelphia or Chicago, which are, higher pressure situations. So, absolutely you'd accept a trade. But Chris Ballard is notoriously stingy with giving away draft picks. So it's one of those situations where it makes a ton of sense, but the people in charge are reluctant to do so because they don't want to give away too many picks just to cover up, current situations that are out of their control.
Then don't give us a draft pick. Give us something else. Give us a guy off the practice squad. Give us depth on O-line. Give us something. Nick Foles should not be on this roster anymore. He shouldn't be on this roster when they take the field against the Dolphins in 11 days. He will be, but he shouldn't be.
It was a 10 to 15 minute, essentially an infomercial of Nick Foles being like, "Hey, Frank Reich, I am talking to you. Please trade for me. Please save me." Whatever Nick Foles said in that press conference, clearly showed some shots taken at the coaching staff, clearly some shots taken at the roster, offensive line, whatever. Nagy today was asked about it. He seemed to be, a good sport about it. And to be fair, I think there were some issues last year. But This was Foles saying, "Look, I want out. I'm killing this third string defense. I'm playing really well. I'm the best shape of my life, whatever. Please trade for me. Please save me." I think it is. Look, I get it from his standpoint, right? Go to an offense that you're comfortable with, start, play, look good, maybe, earn yourself some more money next year somehow. If let's say Indianapolis releases him and then he gets a chance to sign somewhere else. But, for him, why wouldn't he want to otherwise collect awesome money as a third stringer in Chicago, right? But he clearly still wants to play. He wants to go just to Indianapolis. He probably had opportunities to be traded to Philadelphia. He said no to that. New York Jets, I'm assuming, probably said, he said no to that.
Another reason to hate Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers sparked all this controversy about quarterbacks should be given all these rights, and now all these guys think that they're entitled to all these things. And while I agree to a certain extent that players like him should be allowed to negotiate more and be treated better by their organization, guys like Nick Foles, you should not be able to dictate where you go. It should not be that way at all. That's not the way this league has been. I'm open to more player say. I agree with that, but saying I'm not going to go to a team, or I don't want to go to a team here and there, they're not going to trade for him then. That's how he's screwing the Bears in trade talks. They're not going to trade for a guy who's going to go in with a bad attitude and potentially not be the starter that whole year. Because I got news for you. Carson Wentz comes back week 12 at the very latest, week 13, whatever. He's starting over Foles. Yeah. It doesn't matter how Foles has been doing. Wentz will still start. Because I guarantee you Foles is not, no matter even if he plays there for a few weeks, he's not lighting the world on fire anywhere he goes.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically taking the Bears' leverage out of their hands. He's saying, look, I'm not going to report or I'll retire if you trade me anywhere else except for where I want to go. So, yeah, the Bears are stuck. Now, it doesn't make sense for them to release him because it'll cost him more money. And frankly, I still think Foles does add value in the quarterback room based on everything that, I tend to believe this to a certain extent, what Nagy has said, what Bill Lazor said, what Justin Fields and Andy Dalton themselves have said. So I do think there is value of him on the roster versus just being flat out released. I don't think that's going to happen financially or just team culture wise. But yeah, I think he's certainly hamstrung the Bears. And, if they can get a 7th round pick for him at this point, I think they'd take it.
Oh, absolutely. Eric, what is Foles making this year? What would, if they were to trade him, how much money would they get back? Do you have that offhand? It's around 9 or 10 million, isn't it?
If they were to trade him, just give me a second here. I actually have that. If they were to trade him right now, they'd get about $1.33 million in salary cap space. I believe it's about a $4 million charge to any team that takes him in a trade. So not too bad for a backup quarterback. It's somebody who will be a spot starter. And, the Colts have $14 million in cap space, so they can take him if they want him. It's just a question of they don't really want to give up the draft pick, and they think they can be serviceable enough with Brett Hundley and a good running game, or Jacob Eason, whoever ends up actually being the guy. But they seem optimistic about Wentz's recovery time right now. I think that's the leading thing in all of this. From Foles' perspective, he's upset, fine. He feels Nagy didn't do enough to help him last year. But the key thing I point out is Nagy didn't have the Eagles' 2017 offensive line to work with. That was one of the best offensive lines in football, which is why Foles had so much success. So you can praise Frank Reich all you want, but you're looking at him through rose-tinted glasses because of the great blocking he had, the good weapons, all of that stuff. So context is always key in all these situations. It's fine if he's frustrated and he doesn't want to be a third-string guy. Totally respect that. But at the same time, there's only so much the Bears can do if you're not willing to help them.
I mean, Cody Whitehair was the Bears' best offensive lineman last year, and I'm pretty sure he would have been a backup on that Eagles offensive line. Think about that.
Well, here's the other reason I don't think that Foles needs to be on this roster anymore. We can hear Nagy is always going to be a player's guy. He's always going to defend his guy. But the leadership is there. You have it with Andy Dalton.
Yeah,
Andy Dalton is a better quarterback than Nick Foles. And here's the article Eric wrote up. I mean, he has won the team over. These guys like him. He's in complete command. You hear it from Nagy. Foles, his purpose has been served here. He won us that great game in Atlanta. Thanks for that. It was awesome. That touchdown pass to Anthony Miller was cool. But, dude, go somewhere else. This is not hard. I think the Colts should trade for him. I think, as much as they want to be stingy about the draft picks, I think a call gets made at some point here once they realize how bad Brett Hundley is. So, just me. It's just a hunch. I've been wrong about quarterbacks before, as Drew already reminded me this show. So, but hey, this is what I think. And again, great article by Eric. You can find that online at sportsmockery.com. It's one of the first ones right there under the Bears tab. Again, we are Club Dub, presented by sportsmockery.com, and we are not a Nick Foles stan podcast here.
No. The last thing I would say about this before we move, because I know you were looking to move, Kevin. The last thing I would say about this is...
Oh, you want me to move?
To move on to the next topic. I know you want to.
I mean...
I know you're like...
Yeah, we can do whatever we want, man. This is our show.
All right, fine.
We'll get what the people want.
Cool. Last thing I'm going to say, I'm going to make one more plug here. given the fact that the Colts have injuries on their offensive line and Quentin Nelson's going to be out on the left side for a good part of the season, Nick Foles is a statue. They're going to run into the same challenges that they did last year in Chicago. So they should probably look for a more mobile backup. And my guy, Marcus Mariota, is available from Las Vegas. That would be the target if I was Chris Beck.
I mean, I totally understand why you're going there.
Yeah, are we done with that talk now?
But,
all right, you can come back. Are you done with Mariota talk?
I'm done. I made my point.
Come on, man. We want Foles. We're on the Foles to Indy train, not the Mariota.
If I was Ballard, hey, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I would take Mariota over Foles too. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be mean. Anyway, Eric, sorry. What were you saying?
Mariota would be more expensive, both money-wise and probably draft pick-wise, so that's probably completely out of the question. But it does make sense because of the mobility. But you're also forgetting their left tackle retired, and the one they chose to replace him isn't even practicing yet. So that entire left side of the offensive line is a complete mess right now. So, yeah, throwing Foles behind that would be, questionable at best unless you ran the ball a lot. So, it's a whole balancing act for the Colts. They don't want to pay the price, and they also know Foles' strengths and weaknesses. So that's probably why they really haven't pushed for him.
Speaking of banged up offensive lines, who are we going to have to start calling again? Because are we going to need one of our guys, Sports Mocker? Are we going to need Chris to go out there? Are we going to need Matt to go out there? Are we going to need Zoe to go out and play offensive line? We're going to have to figure that out. Aldo, somebody's got to start who played football? I mean, there's seriously some growing concern on this offensive line for the Bears. I mean, there's really where Tevin Jenkins hasn't practiced yet. Now, this is a concern this is growing because obviously he's a first-round talent that was taken early second round by the Bears. He's your starting left tackle. They're fooling around with where they want to put Borum and everything, but it sounds like they're going to have to start making some moves.
Yeah.
Unfortunately true. I mean, back problems are always iffy with offensive linemen. You have to treat them with the utmost care because they can be aggravated really fast. So I think that's why the Bears are being intensely cautious with Jenkins. They don't want to aggravate whatever's going on. They want to make extra sure that he's 100% to go. So in that context, it's still early in training camp. I understand why you're operating that way, but he's going to have to start practicing soon because there's only so much preparation time you get before the season starts. And if he's unprepared and he's having to protect Dalton's blind side, that can lead to some, pretty big issues fast. So I understand the urgency to get him on the field, but at the same time, there's going to have to come a point soon within the next week or so where you're like, okay, he's still not practicing. We got to start thinking about alternatives here.
And this team needs Tariq Cohen, man. They need him. He's a very, very important piece to this offense. He knows it. I know it. You know it. This guy's really important. He provides that X factor. And he's your punt returner. He's an effective punt returner. He's elusive and he's fun. This injury, he should be recovered from this by now.
I get why people are saying that, but ACL injuries are not nearly as easy to recover from as a lot of people continue to make them out to be. It can sometimes take a lot longer than you think to recover from an ACL. But I honestly think with Tariq Cohen's absence, we've seen how valuable Damian Williams can actually be in this offense because he's already beaten the defense multiple times on wheel routes, showing his versatility as a pass catcher in addition to being a good running back. So I think the Bears are actually well situated at running back, even with Cohen not being back yet and practicing. So, yes, they do need him back. Having him back healthy would be huge for their offense, but I actually think their running back position is good for now, barring another injury, of course.
That's exactly what I was going to say is I think from a running back perspective, they're well stocked. Damian Williams looks, very good. His cutting has been strong. He's beaten Roquan Smith a couple times, which is hard to do. So I think the Bears are well equipped at running back to at least let Tariq Cohen take his time with his recovery. And keep in mind the amount that Cohen, the amount of torque he puts on his knees and joints because of his cutting ability and jump start and joystick and all this stuff, that his ACL is more important to him than someone who just runs downhill. So he may take longer to get that level of explosiveness back. So I'm less concerned about Cohen for now. But yeah, Tevin Jenkins being out this long, he needs reps. It's not that I don't believe he can come back from this injury. I don't think the injury is like a career.
Yeah, he's young. I mean,
right. But his the fact that he hasn't gotten any reps and he has to go up against, a strong defense in week 1 and week 2, week 3, et cetera, that's challenging. And, Elijah Wilkinson, who was his backup, competing for snaps, it was also out today. Jermaine Ifedi on the right side's been out. So today, Larry Borum took snaps for the first time at left tackle and apparently held his own a little bit. So that part's good. But, this is a 5th round rookie. Like, it's a challenging spot right now.
No question about it. I mean, there's a lot of concern there, especially because we went through a poor offensive line last year. We saw it for weeks and weeks and weeks. So this is a concern. We're still a month away from football. I'm holding out hope that Tevin Jenkins still plays, but we're getting to that point where he might not be ready for week 1. So we'll keep you updated on that. We're going to head on to injuries mounting. We went on to that. So one thing I did with that I passed up in my haste, I did want you guys to hear how Nick Foles reacted to the trade rumors and things like that, and how fired up he was, because we heard Foles get fired up a little bit in practice last year and when he started and things like that, and but this was really animated. And again, why is your 3rd string quarterback at the podium?
Listen, Frank Reich is one of my favorite, if not favorite, coaches of all time. He understands me as a player. He understands me as a person. But, right, I haven't had any talks with him. I don't know. I'm a Chicago Bear right now. But I think if he knows me. He understands. I mean, y'all watched the 2017 season in the playoffs where he changed the offense and built it around me, and y'all saw what happened. So he understood my mentality as a player, and he was able to build it around me and put me in a successful position and my teammates. But that being said, they have Carson. And Carson and I have a lot of history. I have a lot of respect for Carson. He's a tremendous player. He's going through adversity once again, but he'll bounce back. And you know what? He might miss a few games, but I know he'll be back out there. But we haven't had any talks. So right now I'm a Chicago Bear, and I'm going to keep slinging it with these 3rd stringers, and we're going to dice them up.
You've been involved with trade talks for another team. You said you want to be involved in that process. Has that occurred already yet?
There was a couple opportunities that came to be this offseason with a couple teams, but it wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right time or the situation with what was going on in my life. It's like I said, you don't just want to go somewhere to go somewhere. Like, you want to go somewhere where you know the people somewhat, or you know someone who knows the people that can vouch for the people, so you can succeed. Listen, I'm 32. I feel great. The version of me right now is much better than the version that played in the Super Bowl. I'll tell you that, and I'm confident in that. So put that through your mind. I know that. I know what this game's about. You have to have the whole package as a team. Like, you have to have everyone in there. You have top down has to be great. If it's not great, you're going to be mediocre. I've seen it. I've been a part of it. And unfortunately, when you're a quarterback, you got to go through a lot of the, baloney. But that's part of it. That's why we play this position. That's why we grow. Because at the end of the day, there might be some kid that's watching this press conference and they say Nick Foles is a 3 quarterback and he's going out there and his mentality is to dice up that defense and help his teammates. And that's what I will continue to do till I lace up the cleats for the last time.
Someone applauding that? Damn. No cheering in the press box, I thought.
Well, for one, beggars can't be choosers when you've had back-to-back terrible seasons, Nick. Just going to say, you have to go – if there's an option for you to start somewhere, you're only 32. If you think that you're in the best shape now, you can get better. You don't have to go to a system where you're not 40. Like, I don't know. He seems to want a lot of different things, and I get it. The competitive aspect to me, I can totally understand that he wants to be a starting quarterback. He wants another shot. He dealt with a terrible offensive line. It was spent most of the time 10 yards back beyond the line of scrimmage last year. I get it. I get the frustration. But if there's a spot for you on a different team to actually play legitimate football, why are you still here? I don't get it. But again, we've covered this topic. I don't want to delve too much back into it. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But anyway, guys, throw us your questions. This is one of our favorite segments. We started doing this a couple weeks ago. Love taking the questions from everybody. Go ahead and comment on any of the pages. We get them all right here for us. We'll answer them for you live right now. So go ahead and send some questions in. How was the former Falcon wide receiver doing? Who's the former Falcon wide receiver? Is that
Justin Hardy?
Who is that?
Justin Hardy.
Justin Hardy? Yeah, how's Hardy doing?
Haven't really heard much about him in terms of the practices lately. I mean, he just got here, so he's trying to get acquainted with the system really fast. But You haven't heard any downside to him, so I guess that's a positive. But in terms of making any significant plays, he hasn't really shown up yet.
I got a question that was sent to me on Twitter a couple days ago. Thought I'd bring it up here.
Sure.
What does the competition look like for wide receivers 3 and 4?
That's a great question. We know it's Mooney and Robinson 1-2. So to me, it's Goodwin and Bird who are competing for the 3-4 spots right now. That's the way it's looking. And because they're speed guys and they were intentionally sought out by the Bears, so the team clearly has a plan for both of them, presuming both have performed well. And I think they have, especially Goodwin. He's looked really sharp in practices. So I think he's the current favorite for the number 3 spot, with Bird being number 4, and then everybody else is chasing them.
And to me, Damiere Byrd, people forget he played with a quarterback who couldn't throw the ball last year. Cam Newton struggled immensely last year. It's not saying he's not a good quarterback, but he struggled immensely, and he still had a career high in yards. Damiere Byrd, I think he had 600 to 700 yards total that year, something around those numbers. So I think Byrd gets the 3 spot, the 4-1 kind of up for grabs. I mean, Javon Wims is making some nice catches in practice too. He might get a little redemption. I don't know. He's going to need a lot of it after that.
Having Justin Fields throw to you can really help.
You saying he has a puncher's chance?
God.
Nice.
I'm sorry.
You win the show. You win the show. That was good. That was really good. No, I make terrible jokes all the time. So I'm kind of mad I didn't come up with that one first. Pretty good.
The way I answer that one though is I agree with Eric. Is I think wide receivers 3 and 4 are certainly between Goodwin and Byrd. And keep in mind, Byrd was kind of Darnell Mooney last year. He had so many more opportunities to get more yards, but was missed because Cam couldn't throw. But I think Goodwin and Byrd are in a tight battle for wide receivers 3 and 4, but both should see plenty of time on the field this year. I think Daz Newsome is going to lock up wide receiver 5 once he's healthy. I thought that might initially go to Anthony Miller before he was traded. So now I think Daz Newsome is going to get to that spot. And then that final 6th spot, I think, it's a pretty tight competition right now. You have, Kevin, to your point, Javon Wims, there's Riley Ridley, Chris Lacey, all these other folks that are kind of, in a random battle for wide receiver 6. I don't expect them to play much, but,
not when you have guys like Montgomery and Williams catching a lot of passes out of the backfield either. You got to remember that too. Right.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think for the question, and I have to give credit, I didn't mention their handle on when I put out the question. His name is or his or her name @Butkus Plug. I couldn't make it up. I'm not making it up. That's what they are. But thank you for that question.
Nice. I love this. Richard Schad, thank you. I hope you're still watching because this is a great comment, and it also reminded me to play a video. It was today. Fields is he is pushing Dalton. Obviously, we know that he's right on his heels, and eventually he may start this year. It's Dalton's team for the foreseeable future. But let's take a look at Jalen Johnson making a hell of a play today. Oh,
oof!
Oh, beauty. You got to be quicker than that. See ya, Andy. Touch them all, Andy. That's tough. That's a tough look. He looks great. We obviously know he's the number 1. They watched him last year, Nagy, when they drafted him in the 2nd round. They thought that this guy was that they immediately thought that he had number 1 potential. They thought they got a steal. He wasn't. He was probably the 3rd or 4th guy taken in that position last year, and they loved what they saw, and he's the number 1. When you have the audacity to go out and cut an all-pro corner to save $20 million because of some of your bad contracts like Robert Quinn. We'll see if he lives up to it this year. You're really putting a lot of pressure on Jalen Johnson. That was a heck of a play. So really, I'm really psyched for him this year. I hope he lives up to the hype. How about Travis Gibson and Snowden, outside pass rusher? Yeah, this is a good question. We haven't really heard a whole lot about either guy, right? I haven't, at least.
Actually, Gibson has actually been standing out quite a bit the past couple of days. He's been winning a lot in the one-on-one drill. He's been getting some pressures in the backfield during 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s against the 2nd and 3rd teams. So that's exactly what you want to see. development from him from last year. You have to remember he didn't have OTAs, mini camps, preseason last year, so he was really operating short in terms of what he could have gotten. Say that again?
And he's making a position switch.
That too. So, now he's got a full off season. His body's, trimmed to where it's supposed to be as an outside linebacker, and he's starting to make more plays, which is exactly what you want to see. In terms of Charles Snowden, hasn't made a ton of plays lately, but I heard he had a really nice bull rush in the practice today at Family Fest, so it looks like he's starting to make a little bit of progress there. It's going to be a bit of an uphill battle for him in terms of making the roster right now. I think he's probably going to end up being a practice squad guy, but his talent is undeniable, and it's sort of flashed sort of incrementally over the past couple of days.
Yeah, and who knows? You may need one of those guys. Robert Quinn and Mack have been banged up the last couple of years. You may end up falling to the point where you need one of those guys to fill in this year. Who knows? Rank the secondary depth. Should we be concerned about Bojack's hamstring? I don't know. I mean, obviously, Jalen Johnson's your number one. Vildor's making a stride for the slot corner position. We may see him at the second spot as well. All I know is really those two have been making pushes. Bojack obviously is going to be. I expect him to have a great year in a new system. So I'm not a new system for him, but a new system from last year. I expect him to be great.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jalen Johnson, number one. Number two, very likely Kindle Vildor with depth by Desmond Trufant. The slot, it's a toss-up right now between Duke Shelley and Thomas Graham. But, I think either way you have okay depth and an okay starter. So I
thought I heard Vildor might be in the slot, too. Maybe I heard that wrong. You think they'll have him up top?
Okay. I think
primarily outside.
Sure.
Outside. And then you have intriguing depth, I should say, with Trey Roberson, Artie Burns. I think there's one other person in there from the cornerback spot, and if I remember correctly. And then at the safety spot, I'm a little bit more concerned here, mainly because, we need to make sure that Eddie Jackson gets back to his 2018 form, which we expect in a Vic Fangio, reverting back to a Vic Fangio type system. But, with his hamstring injury, hopefully it's not too serious. The team doesn't seem too concerned about it. Starting safety, Tayshaun Gibson, I think was sat out practice today, but hopefully that's also not too serious. DeAndre Houston Carson is more of a special teamer, but he made some impact plays at safety last year. And
yeah, he did.
Again, I think he played well. Deion Bush is still there, and he seems to be coming along relatively well as well. So I think the Bears they have sneaky decent depth. I wouldn't say they're top end outstanding. They still have a lot to prove, but I think they have, enough there where they won't feel necessarily shortchanged if someone gets hurt for a little bit of while.
I think one guy you should probably factor into this is Marquise Christian, the free agent they signed last year. Not only is could he provide decent depth at safety, but he's also getting work at nickel corner. So he's sort of a versatile guy in that regard, and he also brings a ton of special teams value. So I think he should be considered, a favorite for one of those final spots, either at corner or at safety, depending on where the Bears want to go with it.
We have time. Let's run through it then. Who's starting where? We can go from inside, outside linebacker, all the way back to the secondary. Who's starting where?
For me, it's Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman, Bilal Nichols. That's easy. Roquan Smith and Danny Trevathan at inside linebacker. Outside, it's Mack and Quinn. So really no surprises in the front seven. And then you go in the secondary, Jalen Johnson. I think Vildor is going to end up starting with Trufant right behind him. Nickel corner is the interesting one. I actually think it's going to end up being Thomas Graham. I think he's standing out more in training camp thus far, at least from what I've heard. I think he's going to end up stealing that job from Duke Shelley. And then at safety, you've got Jackson and Gibson being the starters there. So not a ton of surprises aside from a few. It's the question of, is their depth going to be good enough to survive injuries in case somebody goes down?
I 100% concur with everything you just said. I think the interesting thing this year is I think the Bears do have decent starter depth at most positions. You look at the defensive line. They have, Kyrie's Tonga is a nose tackle. It's I guess maybe a little bit easier to plug in someone serviceable. Obviously, Eddie Goldman is elite, but you can plug in someone serviceable. Mario Edwards Jr. is there. If Travis Gibson takes that next step, you have someone there. Jeremiah Ataochu as well. Inside linebacker Christian Jones has, developed over the years and can certainly plug in if needed to an extent. And then in the secondary, we just talked about. So I think the Bears have some decent depth. If you have to sub in at least one person at a certain position, I think they'll be okay.
Trader Penne, great questions, man. Appreciate you tuning in to the show. Should we be worried about left tackle depth? Absolutely. We heard Nagy talk about it today. They always have their eyes on the waiver wire, who's available. Guys on practice squads of other teams that you can go out and snag. This has been an ongoing issue. I mean, we know that the Bears have never had a great offensive line. It's been a long time. I'm worried about it. I'm really worried about Jenkins. But again, we'll see. These back issues are lingering, but he's young. So what? He's not playing in training camp. It's not the end of the world. But yes, I am concerned about this.
And it's fair to be concerned about it, but I think the Bears haven't signed anybody yet because it's still early. I don't think they need to panic just yet. I think they believe Jenkins will be back sooner than later. And then when they get a look at him, if he looks fine, they won't worry about it. But if we're like another week or so into this and there's still no progress, then they're going to start looking at the market. It's not exactly rich, obviously, because it's the left tackle market, but there are a couple of veterans out there who might be worth looking into. Russell Okung is going to be one they probably look at. Ricky Wagner, if he hasn't decided to retire, is going to be another one. So there are a couple of names out there, depending on if they want to play this year or not.
Yeah, those are names I look at as well.
He's got one more here, and we'll end on this one here. But let's see. What's a good week to start? Fields. Let's see. I have a schedule graphic I'll pull up here. Let me dig back and find it. Let's see. No, it's a little hard to read. Let me get rid of this. So obviously we're looking at, week 1, Rams, no. Bengals, no, probably not. Browns, another elite defense. I'm looking at that 5 to 6 range. I'm looking at that Raiders, Packers. Then you got to go against another elite defense in the Buccaneers and the 49ers and the Steelers. I mean, those are back-to-back great defenses. You're looking at the Bears have to play, let's see, probably 1, 2, 3, 4 top 10 defenses in the first 10 weeks of the season, first 9 weeks of the year. So I don't know. I'm looking at the 5 to 6 range. But again, this question is totally irrelevant depending on their record or how. Like we're just gonna have to see how Andy Dalton's doing. But this is it's a good question. But we're not going to know the answer. This is all of us just hypotheticals moving forward. I really don't know, and we'll see them.
Yeah, I know. We talked about this a while back when the schedule first came out, when Justin Fields was first drafted. And back then, there was a lot of projection. How was Andy Dalton going to look? How was Justin Fields going to look? We had no idea. And I would still argue that we still don't because we haven't seen live bullets, especially when it comes to Fields. But I think based on the way practices are going, you can still make a relatively educated guess on when might be appropriate to insert someone like Justin Fields. And really, again, I think it's always been about what's Andy Dalton going to look like and how ready is Fields. Truly mentally, is he ready? And I had before said the Ravens game was a decent insertion spot, and I still feel that's a good one because yes, Andy Dalton has a juggernaut of teams to play in the first, 10 games or 9 weeks, whatever it is. But, there is, if he's playing the way he seems to be playing at practice, where he's in command of the offense and doing things on time and, based on Matt Nagy's scheme, if you're on time, you can move the ball. I don't see why the Bears can't compete in any of these games. And so if that's the case and the Bears happen to win out of those first 9 games, if they're 4-5 or 5-4, it'll be a toss-up decision at that bye week, in my opinion.
From my perspective, there are 3 games in the first half or so of the schedule that look like good insertion points for him. It's week 4 against the Lions because you're playing the Lions, and then you're going to go on the road against the Raiders, who haven't had the best defense. So that's a pretty decent point. And then I look at week 8, I believe is Halloween against the 49ers. I understand people are still thinking about that defense in 2019 terms, but I actually think they're in store for a bit of a step back because they just lost their defensive coordinator, one of the best in the league, in Robert Saleh. They were banged up last year. They don't have the same talent, so I think they might be in store for a bit of a step back in that regard, so you can insert him there. And then you've got the bye week going into the Ravens game, so that gives you extra time to prepare him. So those are the 3 games I would be looking at in terms of where you want to look at for Justin Fields to start.
And to answer Ryan Tweet Gilbert here, if Andy's not playing up to standard, I think Eric just mentioned it, that week 4 insert against the Lions before they go on the road, I think that's a great spot to answer it. Let Andy Dalton have his revenge game week 2 against the Bengals. That's honestly, I'm sure he'll have an extra chip on his shoulder that game. That's a competitive advantage you're going to want to utilize. But then that week 4 matchup against the Lions, it makes too much sense. I mean, the Lions they're bad. I mean, they are rebuilding. Did you guys see Dan Quinn doing push-ups with his team? He was doing down-ups in practice.
He didn't look good doing that.
Yeah, no, he was doing like a flop fish, like he kind of looked like this while he's pushing up like part of his body. But whatever, more credit to him. I mean,
that was great, but the comment by Darius Butler about it was the best, in my opinion.
What'd he say?
He basically said, after seeing it, take the under on the Lions record. Laughing so hard.
I mean, I already did that. If I'm being honest, I already did that. They're bad. They're bad.
Hey,
they're rebuilding.
What was the over/under for them? It couldn't have been like more than 3.
I believe it was 4. So him saying that makes it an even bigger burn.
Lions over/under win total. We're gonna use the good old Google machine here and see. Lions win total 5. It's set at 5. I took the under on that.
I think under is fair.
But again, you got to remember too, this is another thing that we can mention about Fields and Dalton. There's an extra week this year. A lot of people, this is something, the longevity, Dalton's a veteran. That alone, we may see Fields come in for a week or something if Dalton's banged up. But this isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. I know we've heard that a lot over the past year with, COVID and masks and all that. It's a classic saying. But this is all going to be played out week over week.
Yeah,
I think, and I sincerely believe that. But we are 11 days until preseason game number 1, guys. I can't wait. I'm really excited. I hope the defense has a better year. We heard Danny Trevathan get hyped up. Khalil Mack, I'm not a tell you about it guy. I'm a do it guy. All right. He had a down year for his standards, but he still had a pretty darn good year for being injured. This is a good football team. They have the hardest schedule in the league. I'm really excited to see them take the field in 11 days.
Same here, except I have some bad news. I'm going to be missing the first game. I'm at a wedding. So
they don't have it on?
I just realized what? They won't have it on.
All right, I'll give you my watch ESPN password or Fox Sports Go, and you can watch it on there.
Well, they're going to be carrying it on NFL on NFL Network, right? Because I have on my work phone, I have NFL app, and I get it for free. So I could stream the game from there if I just need to make sure I charge it. But I won't be able to do like commentary live and stuff.
Well, you should. We're gonna see. This is the first live action we're gonna see of Fields. I mean, Dalton will probably get one of the quarters, but Fields is gonna get a lot of reps in this game.
I know. I'm gonna have to go and like live tweet it the day after as I'm watching it on NFL.
Or
what is that thing called? Game Pass.
I have an idea. You give me your Twitter login, and I just live tweet it from your account for you. And I promise I won't tweet anything back. How about that?
You know what? That sounds like a great idea, Kev. Sounds like an excellent idea. Just brilliant. I should have thought of that.
Maybe I had the best take of the show. But introducing a new segment right now. The final take. I'm going to get the first one. These guys are going to go next week. There's something really important that the NFL did. And if Drew and Eric, you guys, I'm going to pop over and take the screen here. We'll say our goodbyes in just a moment, but that's not the right person.
Hey, Kevin.
How in the world do you do this? I feel like an old man trying to figure this out. There we go. All right.
Congratulations.
The final take. This is a segment we are introducing here on the Club Dub Podcast presented by SportsMockery.com. I'm really, really proud of the NFL. This is a league that is really starting to come into its own when it comes to changing narratives on things, with players having their own say in their contracts, people like Aaron Rodgers having a say. While it's painful at first, and while we see this change and this growth over time kind of become hard for fans to grasp with, the NFL is becoming a leader not only in the world to get your COVID-19 vaccines, but they're doing it a lot in the social justice ways too. I'm really proud of this league. The league is 90% vaccinated. And you know why that's important? Because a lot of people look up to these players. A lot of people look up to these teams. This is going to help us get out of the pandemic. Whether you believe it or not, you are entitled to your own opinions. but the only way for us to get out of this pandemic is with vaccines, and that's exactly what these NFL teams are showing. I believe the Packers right now, they are 90% vaccinated. They have about 5 or 6 guys that aren't. We'll see if that goes up. The Bears are the same way. The Bears have been all the way there this whole entire time. So this is a really good thing for the NFL because you know what? Even with guys like we're looking at DeAndre Hopkins, arguably the best receiver in the NFL right now, says, I don't know if I can do a COVID shot. He didn't necessarily say no to it. But guess what? The NFL, we see rookies come into this league all the time and take it by storm. And guys like DeAndre Hopkins, as good as he is, he will be buried. And people will forget all about him if he does not play because of a COVID-19 vaccine. I'm really proud of the NFL. 90% of its players are vaccinated. That's really, really important, not only on a football standard, but a life standard as well.
There you go.
That's well said.
We're the Club Dub Podcast, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Drew, did you have a final thought? I'll let you go for it. Dude. Also, Eric, by the way, go Bulls, baby. We're back. Nice background.
Back.
The Bulls are back. The Bulls are back.
Team
Arturus. I know the topical stuff.
You're hip with the kids.
Yeah, it's been a nice couple of days for the Bulls here. Shout out to welcome to the Bulls, I should say. Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso, and of course now DeMar DeRozan. Hopefully that goes official.
So long to Daniel Tice.
Peace, Daniel Tice.
That's tough. I liked him. Cristiano Felicio too.
Needed to be made.
So long. All right. Well, that'll do it for us. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again. This is the Club Dub Podcast. Go ahead and follow us right now. Our Twitter handles are right there for you. Seriously, I need some more followers on Twitter. I'm getting laughed at over here. So go ahead and give me a follow. I tweet some, thoughts are my own. They're I'm a kind of a fun follow. Give me a shout. Eric's great. He pumps out articles every single day. Drew's got his mailbag. He puts out every week. And then you can follow our handle at Club Dub Podcast. And also, of course, we are always presented by sportsmockery.com. We will see you guys next time, and we'll be days away from Bears football. See ya.